Hello, everybody. Welcome to People Talking Sitting Down, episode number 4. I'm your host, Christopher Antich, and I'm so excited to introduce this episode with my good friend, Dan Pulzello. Dan is a comedian based out of New York City. We played college lacrosse together, and we have a wide-ranging discussion talking about anxiety attacks, meditation, all the ups and downs of dealing with life in comedy and trying to make it and what that means to him. So I want to thank all of you guys for tuning into this episode. If you want to support the podcast, please follow at People Talking Sitting Down on Instagram, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you listen. Also check us out and subscribe on YouTube. And this week, I just want to do a quick and special shout out to my good friend, Maher. Cameron is an absolute design wizard who's helped out and pitched in with the People Talking Sitting Down logo, branding, album artwork, graphic design, and he's an absolute king. It's been so much fun to work with Cameron, to tell him my story and then watch him work in his head and whip together beautiful artwork that has really helped the podcast move forward. So if you want to seek out any design work, help, anything like that, please check out his information in the show notes or visit CameronMaher.com, which is CameronMaher.com, or check him out on Instagram at CamMaher, which is at CAM.MAHER. Cameron, thank you so much. I appreciate all that you've done for us. Thank you guys again. I really appreciate it. And here's Dan Pulzello. I want to preface this conversation with a warning that we will be discussing difficult and sensitive topics throughout this episode. Terms or topics we use or discuss during this episode may be viewed as inappropriate if viewed or listened to out of context. This podcast focuses on the past, the present, the future, and our ever-changing reality. My hope is, always has been, and always will be to continue to grow, learn, and change. I believe that when we stop changing, we die. And therefore, it is likely, if not guaranteed, that in the future, parts of this conversation may not age well. I know that and accept it. From the bottom of my heart, I ask for your acceptance, for your kindness, your understanding, and for your time. For I'm a flawed human interviewing flawed humans, searching for answers to questions that I know I may never find. Welcome to People Talking Sitting Down. I hope it's worth your time. All right, so we're just talking about like the health of a comedian, which is like figuring out how to deal with life, how to try to be funny, like is hard enough just in general. Yeah, performing on stage, and then also just dealing, like, again, we were talking about you're married. Yeah. So outside of just like you mentioned that you're one of your coping mechanisms is exercise. Yes. When did you start using that as a coping mechanism?
I would say I had like a back issue. I had a herniated disc and I couldn't run or exercise for like a while. And I probably like overdid it in terms of like not being active. And that threw me into some like depression spirals for sure. And then my back got better. And I realized, I think like I had enough evidence pre-back injury and post-back injury where I was like, this is night and day, like exercise versus like not exercise. And it's just like daily exercise intensity is like variable. Like the intensity does not have any bearing on how good I feel. So it's like a bunch of moderate exercise. I guess like running would be like running like 3 miles. Yeah. It might be like stressful or like hard exercise for some people, but I've always like been pretty good at running.
Yeah. Do you run with headphones in?
Yeah. Podcasts, listening to, I won't plug any podcasts on this podcast. I won't say a fucking,
hey, you can do whatever
I
you
won't
want.
Say the name of a rival podcast on here.
We'll be talking about culture. Hey, a rising tide lifts all boats is the mantra of the company coffee company Dripped that I'm now working for.
Nice.
And it's funny when people see that, it's like, I really do believe in that. But,
yeah.
But
fuck the New York Times and all of their podcasts.
The Daily.
Yeah, the Daily is great. So listen to podcasts. Audiobooks are tough. I've just started like running outside again. It's like audiobooks and podcasts running. And that is like that's gotta be like 3 or 4 times a week. Otherwise I will crap out.
Yeah.
Bottom out.
Yeah. Figuring out how to, again, like just whether it be exercise or like for me, it's like personally walking.
Yeah.
Like just literally going outside, getting the air. Like I find myself, if I'm in here until 2 p.m. and I didn't get outside yet, it's like, like you said, night and day.
Yeah, it's insane.
But yeah, no, back to your comedy career. And we talked, and maybe we missed some of this with some of our technical issues here, but starting out, I mean, you came out of college and started writing. Like what I remember is that you started writing comedy. You wrote these like short stories.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh my God. Remember that?
Dude, that's why I like when I read that stuff, I was like, dude, this guy's like, I know you're funny. You're locker room funny. You're funny at parties. You're funny to talk to in the library. Like that's where like, and those honestly, in my opinion, are all different types of funny.
Yeah.
And to be able to do all of them, I would imagine translates well into being able to perform on stage. But I remember reading those and I was like, dude, this is it. This is what Zell is supposed to be doing. This is like, you know, I believed in you. And I guess I want to say, like, what was the why behind you? Why you wanted to make that leap to chase your dreams?
It's a tricky one because I'm in therapy now. So like I'm peeling back kind of like layers. So like me as a person, I have had an anxiety disorder for as long as I can remember. Like insomnia, like I was the kid who was like going to like my parents' room like every night until I was like very old. You know, I don't even know, 12, 13, 14. I don't know when I stopped doing that, but that was like at night I would have like low level panic attacks. I would constantly be scared of like things in the dark. Like, so that was like, that's an anxiety disorder. I started getting panic attacks like in high school. And that was like, you know, in the morning, trying to go to sleep at night, exercising. Like, so humor has always been the best way that I can communicate, not knowing like I'm doing this as a defense mechanism because my stress levels on a good day, and we're talking like white, upper middle class kid, good background. It was something that my dad said to my mom at one point, was like, I don't understand why he's having panic attacks because everything is going well for him. And it's like, you're 100% right. I don't get it like either. I don't know. Yeah. It's in my family. Like my mom has had panic attacks. I've got like sisters, brothers, every person in my immediate family has had panic attacks or depression. Yeah. So that was like my whole life navigating social situations was through comedy. I'm not going to start the conversation, but if we start talking, I'm going to sit back and I'm going to try and say the funniest thing in every interaction. I don't care if I don't get to know you better. If you don't get to know me better, that really, let me help this person. That was just never my way of coping. It was like, I'm going to try and be the funniest person in this conversation. I always hung out with funny people, and that was at the detriment of character. I never valued character. I was always like, who is fucking funny? Yeah. That was like middle school, high school was always like, let me just hang out with like the funniest fucking people. So that was always like in me and a defense mechanism to me not having therapy. Like I didn't pursue therapy. I didn't like even find out how to stop a panic attack until I was 29. Yeah. And the way to stop a panic attack is to put a bunch of cold water on your face and on your wrists and just change the physical temperature of your body. Really? And that will help you with panic attacks. So everything prior to me being 29, I was white knuckling an anxiety disorder. Yeah. Sometimes it would go away for months. Sometimes it would come back. Sometimes I'd have 2 panic attacks in a week. Sometimes I would have 0. Sometimes I would have 3 in a day. And none of it is documented. I have no fucking idea what I did or what happened. Yeah. So I was always anxious. So it's interesting. You mentioned about it being in your family, and there's a book right behind your head there that is called, It Didn't Start With You. How we deal with like inherited family trauma. Yes. And the fact, and like, again, all the learning and diving into, my complex post-traumatic stress disorder, I've learned so much about it's in your body and not only your body and in your brain as well. So like things get passed down, and a lot of and I probably might say this on every single episode, but like not talking about things, like ideas are physical, and people don't think about that as
but there's like a, research and science behind it.
Yeah.
I'll save that for another time. But if those physical ideas never get out there into the world, they, instead of going out there into the world physically, because we're talking, and like, it's getting out there, they sink down into your body, and then it becomes in your body, and then it gets passed down generation to generation.
Yes.
So there's things, and there's a story in that book where they talk about a kid who was dealing with an insomnia at like 18. It just hit him all of a sudden. And he would be freezing, shivering cold, could not sleep, could not do anything. And it turned out that like he had an uncle who froze to death at that age, and the family never talked about it.
Yeah.
So again, all those things, those fears of it being freezing and all that kind of stuff. So like that's, an extreme example.
Yeah.
But it's just an example of like when you don't talk about the things, they'll sink down and then pass body to body. But it's an interesting, like again, like you said, nobody really knows why though, because like if you don't hear those stories, if you don't hear those things, like the generation above might not have any idea either because it wasn't them.
And so like my dad, in terms of like a direct correlation, like my dad was lower to middle class, moved around a ton, definitely got beat up at some point. It's just like the kids were getting hit every day.
Yeah.
So what does that how does that factor into my, like, it's all like I'm getting through it in therapy, but it's just like, I have no fucking idea.
Yeah.
I don't know where any of this, how much of an influence is genetic, how much it's social. Like, so like my baseline was like, if a normal person is stressed at like a 2 or a 3, like on a daily basis, I was probably hovering around like a 7 or 8 for like 15 years.
Yeah.
And comedy was always like my stress relief. If I can make everybody in the group laugh, like, oh, okay, good.
Yeah.
And then I feel good for a little bit. And then it's like, well, what's the next when can I bring up a callback? And I didn't even know the words at the time, but I was like, okay, now we've got an inside joke. I'm going to remember the inside joke. Like, how can I build on the inside joke? Like, how can we, and these are all like comedy terms that I didn't have at the time, but it's like, how can we make a bit? Like, I'm sure we did it in college. Like,
yeah.
That's how I form relationships. Hey, like
boys until the Mill Street leaves.
Yeah, boys for life. Like all of these like ridiculous, like we had lunch before this. We're bringing up inside jokes. Like that shit goes deep into my brain and is the primary language that I communicate with. So all of that, like that was how I was living my life as like a fucking sales assistant at 23. I was still doing the same stuff. And like, then I was dating a girl at the time who is now my wife. We break up when I was 23.
Okay.
And she's in Australia. I'm in America. We were doing the long distance thing. And she's like, I'm seeing somebody else. This is done. And I was like, this is going to hurt a lot. It didn't hit me. It didn't hurt immediately, but I was like, this is going to be like very, very painful for me. And I was reading a book, Sick in the Head by Judd Apatow, where he would interview comedians. When he was like, Judd Apatow was a stand-up comic first. He was like a 14-year-old kid, 15-year-old kid. He would just interview comedians. He was a weirdo. He would just interview stand-up comedians, and he kept track of all of them.
Ricochet
and he
shot.
put them in a book. What?
I said a ricochet shot. He would just interview comedians.
Yeah, he was just, what a freak this guy was. I mean, he really liked the sound of his own voice. So that book, somebody got me that book. I can't remember who got it from me, but they're probably the person most responsible for me doing comedy. I think it might have been my wife at the time, broken up ex-girlfriend.
Yeah.
So I was reading Sick in the Head by Judd Apatow, which is just interviews with tons of comedians. There's an Amy Schumer point where she's like, one time when I was 23, I walked into an open mic and that was how I started doing comedy. I was like, I'm 23. I'm going through a breakup. Like I found out from my mom's coworker that you can just do open mics in New York. There's a website called Laughing Buddha Comedy where you can just sign up for an open mic. Anybody can do it. So those 3 things hit me at the same time. 1, there's open mics in New York. I had no idea. I didn't even really care about stand-up at that point. 2, ouch. I just went through a breakup. This is going to hurt very badly because this is the love of my life. And then the 3rd thing was reading a book about comedians finding out that like Amy Schumer started at 23. Her uncle was a senator, so that helps.
It does help.
Chuck Schumer, like...
Wait, I didn't know that.
They don't tell you that in the fucking book that, you work your 10,000 hours and then your uncle's a senator. They don't say that in the book.
Yeah.
So those 3 things happened on like August 8th, 2016. Pre-Trump, a different time. Better or worse, who's to say?
Things were different.
But all those 3 things happened. And I signed up for an open mic in the city. I brought like 20 people from New Jersey parents, friends, family members, coworkers, like 20 to 30 people. We all went down into the basement of Greenwich Village Comedy Club, and they all had to buy a fucking drink to get in. I was told I was doing 5 minutes. I show up. The open mic host is like, you're only doing 4.5. The mic is like booked. That threw me for a fucking loop because I'd rehearsed everything second for second. I got like 5 minutes together in like, 2 days. I was like, oh, finally, I have a good 5. Like, not knowing anything about it at the time. And then I just speeded through it. I got on stage and like was so anxious, like was yelling, like I was just going through, I don't even remember them. I'm sure I have it written down somewhere, but it was just like 5 minutes of like nonsense. And then everybody who I cared about in my life, I get off the stage and they're like, great job, like amazing. Then like months pass, I like get like real deep into comedy. I asked my brother, I was like, what was my actual first set like? And he was like, we couldn't hear you at all. You were screaming, like the mic was very bad. We were just really happy and laughing that you were doing anything.
Yeah.
And then like I joined like the Laughing Buddha Comedy Club is just a organization of like open mics and shows. And they do regular open mics, and they also offered like a comedy class. So I was like, let me take that after that. And then I was just doing open mics like, 5 a week, 6 a week. It got up to like, there was a year like 2017 where I did 11 open mics a week on average. So that is 2 a day for an entire year. And that's the average. So there were weeks when I would do 20 open mics in a week. Yeah. I would forget to eat. I was eating sardines fucking anchovies out of like my bag because I was like, I'm skipping too many meals. I just couldn't. I lost myself like absolutely and completely into comedy for like 3 years.
Yeah. And that's when I remember having phone conversations. And that's, again, when I brag to family or friends that like I've shown, people your work, and I'm like, dude, Zello was doing like, I remember you told me like a Chinese restaurant stand up, like coffee shops.
And that was like one of the better shows was the Chinese restaurant one. That was like a really good fucking show. I did like great. There was somebody who got like pulled early and that's like that's wild. And that's a highlight for me, was doing the Chinese restaurant. I've done open mics where it's just the host in the room. So I'm performing to one human. That's it.
You're just performing to one person.
Just performing to one person. And there's the mantra of comedy and like the philosophy behind it is like, even that is valuable.
Yeah, yeah.
There are people who would argue that. You got on stage, you organized your thoughts into a set list, you tried something new. Maybe you tried something old that didn't work. Why isn't it working anymore? I'm told it the exact same way. You record yourself. You have to like listen back to it. Like, what is making me funny? I don't know. Like, and I'm still 7 years in. They say you're not good until you're 10. So these are still like open questions for me. Like, why did this joke work? I have a joke that I open with on like most sets, and my sister is like, I don't like that joke. And I was like, every audience I've ever performed in front of has some reaction to that joke. Good, great, amazing. It doesn't matter. Like, that's a joke that hits 100% of the time.
Yeah. Is that what you're looking for? Just a reaction?
For the opening joke.
Okay.
You need to give the strategy behind comedy, or my strategy behind comedy is, and I can riff. So like, let's say the act of doing stand-up comedy is most of the time it's in the city, it's on a showcase show, or it's an open mic. Like, I'm doing less open mics, I'm doing more shows. I'll still occasionally do open mics.
Yeah.
At a showcase show, there's a host, and then they bring up, the host does their set. A lot of times I'll host, and I'll be the first person that goes up, and I have to warm up a crowd and do jokes and like bring up the other comics and like run a show. But like the strategy needs to be like, you need to show these people you're in control. If it's being funny immediately, if it's being interesting immediately, if it's being confident immediately, like if it's being weird immediately, but like your first impression needs to be powerful. It doesn't have to be like, you don't have to have them laughing within the first 15 seconds, 20 seconds. If you're hosting, like it's usually looser, but if a host is bringing you up, ladies and gentlemen, Dan Pulzello, and you get on stage, you have to have something immediately.
Yeah.
There's a bunch of set, like, kind of like you call like riffs, where you can like go up like loose, like kind of go into, some direction. If a comedian before me has interacted with an audience member and that's gone well, that's fair game. I could go up and be, oh, look at this piece of shit, shitting on white men. Like it's a opening move. It's like chess. It's like, you can do that in pretty much anywhere on earth.
Yeah.
Just shit on a white dude. And that's like, if you're doing it in a good way, that's like funny.
Yeah.
So when I'm on the road, I'll open with a joke and it's like a misdirect. And that is like, because it's a big crowd. I'm trying not to do like a lot of crowd work in that situation. This is like my money shot. Like I need to start the best way. It's a misdirect that works like 90% of the time. And they know, even if I fuck up later, the first impression is, oh, well, he's good. And they'll give you more of a leash later on in the set. Oh, he's not doing well now, but remember the beginning. He was very good at the beginning. I'm sure he'll come. We've reached a lull. But if you start bad, then you'll never recover.
Yeah. And that's so interesting. One of the questions, and I had a few pre-written questions here, but like one of the things that I was thinking about yesterday as I was preparing for this is like, obviously we're on here, we're talking a little bit about mental health and what you do and how the two, interact and combine. And one of my things is like, all right, again, talking about just the opening. We've talked about that for how long? Mm-hmm. Just that is such an important part. Yeah. What do you do when you had a panic attack that day? What do you do when you had like how does that, how did you deal or how do you deal with like all of those emotions, the ups and downs of life? Yeah. And then you got to go on and be confident, be funny. And like, again, I always call it putting the mask on. Like, especially in that you're in a lot of ways acting too. Yeah. Especially on those bad days, I would say.
Yeah. A strategy for me is never get the panic attack. And then how do you never get the panic attack? And that's exercise, sleep regularly, make sure that all of my other ducks are in a row before comedy even like starts. So like that's option one, is never let it get to that point. Option two is like, hey, life happened today and I had to work until 7:30 p.m. and the show's at 8:30 and I'm like rushing there. Like, and this is taking like a long time, but it's like being aware of my emotions and being like, hey, you are not in a good headspace right now. Mm-hmm. And that is fine. There's a bunch of reasons for it, but like checking in with yourself like prior. And this is all like after a full year of like weekly therapy of just being able to like, I need to check in with myself before I get on stage. How am I feeling? I'm feeling anxious. Why am I anxious? Well, the fucking subway was jammed and I ran late and they added me to a call and I didn't need to be on the call. Didn't even say anything and then, okay, those are the sources of the anxiety. Yeah. And then it's like, sometimes I don't check in. There were a lot of times when I was like doing all those open mics when I would go from mic to mic fucking miserable, screaming at people into a microphone, like having like really wild sets of really explosive emotion, subject material. Like, and I had people would be like, are you okay? Like people would ask me that because of like how badly I was doing at open mics or like how like energetic I was or something like that. And so it's like, you need to check in with yourself. Even if you've had like a shitty day, you can pause and say like, am I angry? Am I anxious? Am I sad? Am I happy? Sometimes you can go overconfident if you're in too good of a mood. Yeah. And you go up and you're like, I'm literally like the shit. I just came back from a tour in LA and they fucking loved me. Yeah. And you guys are literally the dirt beneath my feet. Like I don't fucking need, that's too confident. Yeah. That's not funny at all. That's like hurtful to the audience, so you have to check in with yourself and just get to that middle space. Yeah. Not too high, not too low. And there's a lot of times nowadays I'll be able to do that. So that's one, is like check in on your emotions, check in on your set list. What am I going to say? What do I want to say? What are jokes that I'm working on? What is the goal of this set? The goal, there has to be a goal. If it's interesting, I'm going to do as good as possible, then it's like I'm going to the hits. I'm going to all my old jokes. These are 10 jokes that I know work because they've worked in a lot of different situations. And I'm going to bring the energy and I'm going to have act outs because a joke starts as like a line on a page for me. And then it gets built into several lines and then act outs and then facial movements and then pauses where audience members are reacting. And it's like, there's a joke here's an example. There's a joke that is very old for me, 2 or 3 years old. And I say, enough time has passed with COVID where we can admit that those clear face shields are for dorks. And I make fun of the people with the clear face shields. That was a thing that I wrote. That's the premise. Yeah. Clear face shields are for dorks. It already gets a laugh up top because dork is funny. But that's where it starts. And that joke, I know it works because later on in the joke, there's an act out. There is there's a really reckless punchline that alienates 50% of the audience every time. But the 50% that like it are like, that was my favorite joke I've heard. I had one weekend in Texas where 3 individual people were like, that was the best joke I heard all weekend.
Wow. What does that feel like?
That was wild. That's 7 years in that you start to get feedback like that. That was like that felt really good.
That's sick.
And then it doesn't feel good because the compliment is over. But so competence in the art form is just coming to me now, 7 years in. That's compliments from peers, objective feedback from the Instagram algorithm.
Yeah.
Like all of that for like 4 or 5 years, it was nothing. It was no feedback, mostly negative feedback.
So how'd you keep going? Like how'd you, and I guess one of the most important things in my mind is that whose opinion is most important is yours.
Yeah.
And especially in those times when you're not getting that feedback, you're working through jokes, you're you know, doing whatever you need to do to literally get through the sets, get through like the entire journey. But in that time, did you, even from the start, like, did you feel good? Did you always, I mean, you're still doing it. So that's the thing. It's like the fact that you're still doing it, you know, it says a lot.
I thought I was good immediately.
Let's go. That's so sick.
Yeah. Because I didn't have any evidence. The first mic that I did was like a lot of family and friends, and they like really enjoyed it. And then I did the comedy class, and that was like 6 weeks of 6 weeks of like classes and stuff once a week. And then there was a graduation show, and I brought a bunch of people to that again, and I did really fucking well there because I brought half of the audience, and they all fucking loved me.
Yeah.
So I had an inflated sense of self-worth from the jump. And there was also the knowledge that this is not my only option. I could burn out, you know, I could do this for 5 years. And this is like white privilege, upper middle class privilege. Like my parents lived in New Jersey. I was living with my parents in New Jersey. So I never had to make the jump to New York.
Yeah.
That's gigantic. There are people who move from Minneapolis to New York. I'm going to make it in New York. They don't know a single fucking person. They have no job prospects. It happens with every industry in New York because New York is such a big shining like dream. Like, so I recognized really early on, like I could really fuck up my life for like 3 or 4 years, maybe like 5 years doing this and just get a brother, like a sales job with my brother.
Yeah. It'd be fine.
You know? And society is like set up that way. It's dog shit. You know what I mean? Like how many people would have to sacrifice so much more to even get to the starting line? Like my buddy Shafi is he is a Bangladeshi citizen. So I do Culture Clash comedy podcast with Shafi. Shafi, I met him like in the miking days, like when I was open miking. I was like, this dude is fucking smart. His life story is he came from Bangladesh. He was on an exceptional like student visa. So he had to apply to even get into an American university, even to apply for the visa. And he was like, he had to navigate international bureaucracy to get to the same starting line that I started at just because my parents are from New Jersey.
Yeah.
We both started at the same time. Like, you know, like it's fucking, so I recognized all of those things like, hey, the cards are like really stacked in my favor and I can really bomb very badly at this and still go back to like a pretty good life.
Yeah.
So that was one thing. Is like I can't fail. I can fail, but even failure is
fine.
I'll just have like a normal job in New York. It's still a good life. Like,
it is. And I like to push back on some of those things because yes, and again, the starting line that like it all makes sense, but like you still rode the train both ways from your your parents to New York. How many times? Every single day. Yeah. You still did all the work. Like I
would take the last train from New York to New Jersey is 1:40 a.m. If I miss that, then I would have to like call friends, my brother. There were nights when I was like, I would have to like hit up like girls that I didn't even talk to anymore. Please let me stay in your apartment because I just missed the last train back to New Jersey and the Ubers are $250.
Damn.
And so like, yeah, there were hardships. Like I would say both are true, but like I recognize like my starting line was like, I'm already like in first place.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And it is a huge obviously like massive advantage, but it's I mean, it is fun to hear I like hearing the grinding stories of like again, like missing that train sucks.
Yeah.
It's like,
I would sprint across. There was a time when I sprinted across like 7th Avenue traffic because I was like, I know it was not a green light. It was a green light.
Yeah.
Taxis. And I was like, I cannot miss this train.
Yeah.
And I sprinted across traffic on 7th Avenue to get to the train to get home.
Yeah.
That's wild. Like there were so many, like there were some really wild nights.
Yeah.
It's gotten like less wild, and there's still like I'd say my pursuit of comedy now is like more balanced, and I have like more sticks in the fire where it's not like get as much stage time as humanly possible at the expense of literally every other element of my life.
Yeah.
So that's nice.
What looking back just so you said it's been seven years.
Yeah, 7 years in August.
Looking back, what's like your favorite time period of it? Is it the beginning of the grind? Is it the before even starting, trying to get to that point? Like where do you look back and like I was in it?
I don't really have. I was talking with my buddy Shafi about this. I don't have a ton of nostalgia, like as like baseline. Like, oh, high school was cool. I'm really happy it ended. Oh, college was cool. Yeah, dude, it's good that college ended. Like, I think I'm at the best spot mentally, physically, and like funny wise, like right now.
Yeah.
I'm the funniest I've ever been. I wasn't good starting, like I thought I was good immediately. It wasn't true.
Yeah.
I don't miss any of it. I don't miss I would not trade one day of my life right now for a month of any other year.
I like that answer. That's a very present, good answer to have.
Yeah. Everything's going up.
That's what I'm talking about. So as everything's going up, I'm going to bring you back down to the. Just want to. One of the things I had talked with people beforehand about, again, what we were going to talk about with it, and I know you mentioned depression and or like anxiety attacks, panic attacks, and I always said like I know what that means as far as like I can imagine him. I can put the two words together in my head, but what does that feel like? What is going on in your head where you're like, what's happening?
Yeah. So there's triggers. What triggers an anxiety attack? In high school, it was like grades, colleges, drinking caffeine recklessly for no reason. Like those are all like in hindsight triggers of like what were things that were like really stressful. The first panic attack I had that I remember like full blown, like the rails are off. It was like I had to write a paper and I left into the last minute and I drank coffee at like 6 p.m., 7 p.m. trying to get like there's some like mystique around pulling an all-nighter of like, ooh, like a cool thing. I don't know. I was in high school. I was like, I just got to cram this. I got to get this done. I would leave. I was always a procrastinator. And I was like, I got to get this paper done.
Yeah.
And then this is a no joke. And I don't know if I've even said this to my therapist. This was I'm laying down. I would share a bedroom with my brother and I am like heart rate 1,000,000. And I don't know why. I'm like, what the fuck, And then there was a thought that I had that was like, I could kill my brother right now. Whoa. That's intrusive. So that's an intrusive thought.
Yeah.
And the fact that I had it scared the shit out of me.
Yeah.
And then that goes into like, what makes a murderer? Are people capable? Oh my God, am I losing my mind? And that was by that point, at that point in the questioning, it is all of the adrenaline has flooded my body completely. And, I like sprang out of bed. I went into like my basement, legs shaking, breath, like changing, like hyperventilating. And I probably just sat there for like 1 to 2 hours. I don't know if I went to sleep that night. And then the next morning, Dan, what's up with you? And I can't say the idea of like, and then, so this is something that I brought up with my therapist recently, where I told him and this was like the start of it then. I told my therapist recently, I was like, there was like a full summer when I thought I had schizophrenia.
Yeah.
And he was like, oh yeah, that's something that happens with like teenagers who have anxiety disorders, because a lot of the anxiety symptoms can manifest, like it seems like schizophrenia. So
Yeah.
you're actually not alone. There's a lot of young people who think that they have schizophrenia.
Yeah, I've actually gone through that, and with my therapist, she's like, these people throw around these terms, even like, oh, like I have PTSD from that, like, oh,
Yeah.
I've like you know, bipolar when you like have good days and bad days. It's like, no, like there's like really serious, like area or like definitions of these disorders, and they're really serious things, and the way that we again like throw them around sometimes, and like it kind of I think it kind of makes people think like, again, like what you're saying, like that's what you thought was going on. And
there's no spectrum for schizophrenia. Like you have schizophrenia or you don't. Yeah. And there was no outlet for me to like, even bringing that up to people would be like insane.
Yeah. And especially at that age.
Yeah.
And at the time, I mean, again, that's the same thing I've said it like, dude, I started my therapy journey 5 years ago.
Yeah.
Even 5 years before that, dude, like you couldn't go to therapy as a guy. Like,
no.
Like people didn't have the...
We're fucking busy too. We're doing sports every day.
But especially, like playing college sports, you couldn't say that. You couldn't do that.
High school sports.
Yeah.
When was I going to... Yeah, like, so that is... And since and that's a pretty fucking wild thing. So they're with anxiety disorder. And I've talked to a good friend comedian of mine, Ben. I was talking to him about my therapy journey. And I was like, oh yeah, there's this crazy thing when like, I thought they had schizophrenia for a full month because I was just having all of these symptoms of like anxiety, like thinking you're hearing different voices in your head and it's just self-talk, but now you're implying like, oh my God, I'm having a schizophrenic break.
Yeah, dude.
And I was like, yeah, it was a pretty wild time. And he was like, that happened to me.
Yeah.
And so that's just 2 people. I've told this to 5 people.
Yeah.
20% of the people that I've talked to have like also had like a similar thing.
Yeah.
Which is wild.
And that's again, like part of all this is like, dude, we're all going through so many of the same things.
Yeah.
In different ways at different times, but there's so many thoughts, so many things that like we just never talked about. And now that we have the ability to just like through technology, through these comfortable conversations, through again, the destigmatization, which is obviously like our goal here, but there's a lot of other people who have started to do it.
Yeah.
To, make it allowable for guys like us. And I think that really did start with, I mean, I say Kevin Love made a huge, momentous statement when he did his Players Tribune article that impacted me heavily. But like, obviously people in Hollywood, like, because they were started talking about it, then it makes the conversation a little bit more okay to have for just like normal guys that are going through normal things.
Yeah.
That, again, like you said, it is fun. And like, even after putting out the first episode, like I had so many people reach out. They're like, dude, I finally felt like I wasn't alone in these thoughts.
Yeah.
Like, and I'm like, yeah, like literally everyone's thinking.
Everybody who has had a panic disorder has had some level of like, because a panic attack, there's some people who just have one panic attack their whole life. That was my dad. My dad was like, yeah, there's one time I was at work. I just fucking thought I was going to die. I thought it was a heart attack. And then that's it. That's the only panic attack he ever had.
Yeah.
But even like, so panic attacks are things that happen. When one happens, more are going to come. They come in bunches because you get to that excited state. And if you don't rev down appropriately, then you're just hanging out at like a 5 or a 6 and you can go up to an 8 like real easily. And you don't even know you're in an excited state.
Yeah.
And that was like, I had a buddy, Anthony, in high school, and he had an anxiety disorder. And so me and him talking about panic attacks, and he had more panic attacks than I did. And I was like, if you're having more, like, I am in hell. My brain is like, it is really bad some days. And you have more panic attacks than me. I was like, holy fucking shit. Sorry, dude. Like, that is brutal.
And again, I mean, I pretty much just said it, but like, that's the part where I like laugh now. It's like, dude, we've all felt that way. And then just hearing that other people felt that way, feeling that like, cause it does, dude. And again, like what you said about killing your brother, like that sounds so crazy.
Yeah.
Feels 10 times crazier.
Yeah.
And then
it's just an obtrusive thought. Like it's not, so like, oh, look, a window could jump out of that. Mm-hmm. Everybody who's looked at a window and gotten real close has been like, it really ended all right now. Yeah. And then how do you react to that thought? And oh my God, I would never. And then you're having a fucking conversation about killing yourself in your brain. It's just a window.
Yeah. It's actually crazy you say that, because I have a weird thing sometimes in Ubers on highways, and then there's one point up here on my rooftop.
Yeah.
My body feels like it wants to do it.
Yeah.
Out of nowhere.
Yes.
I could be having a great day.
Yeah.
And that comes out of nowhere. And again, like the physical, like again, the thinking about the obtrusive thoughts, like
Yeah.
them being physical. If you think about everything, life is just energy. We're all just particles moving around. They just come through.
Yeah.
So it's not exactly, and like that's the thing about just like what is the human experience? Are you the observer who's just, again, through meditation, like are you just the observer who's observing all of these thoughts going through? We're having a conversation. You're sending your thoughts through words. I'm receiving them, and then coming back and forth as a cycle. And like thinking about, just for whatever reason, that might sound weird. Thinking about it that way has helped me a lot.
Yeah.
To
Well, you're not your thoughts.
Yeah.
I had a thought. Wouldn't it be like, oh my God, I could kill my brother right now. I could kill my brother every night. He went to sleep before me every single night. Like, you know, I could kill my wife. I'm stronger than her. They're insane. But like, what are like, and that's the thing about anxiety too. So anxiety, I could kill you. I could take you. I know I could. That's the thing about it. That's the thing about anxiety is, so it's having an obtrusive thought. Where did it come from? Doesn't matter. It's in your fucking brain right now. How are you going to deal with it? But anxiety generates more obtrusive thoughts.
Yeah.
So my baseline operating level when I had a panic disorder was, I should just end it all. I'm just like I'm a nightmare to like, I am such an embarrassment. Like, so those thoughts came up, and it happened one time. Like I had a joke book that I thought it was a joke book, and I was just writing like stream of consciousness, like all of these thoughts that were just like in my head. And somebody in my life found it and said, what the fuck is going on?
Wow.
Like it wasn't like a malicious thing, but somebody in my life found it and they were like, what is going on? And I was like, no, I'm just writing like thoughts down. And they were like, these are not normal thoughts. Now, fast forward, I talk about it in therapy, and that I find that out. People with anxiety disorders have more obtrusive thoughts.
Yeah.
I've always been more negative. I've always been more cynical. I care more about global warming than anybody that I've met in my life. The world is not in a good place. Like, you know what I mean? Like, so that's just who I am. I am more negative. I'm more cynical. I'm more analytical, like not even analytical in like a smart way. There's not like some crazy godlike process power happening. I just perceive things in a way that has been tainted by 20 years of anxiety.
Yeah.
And that's going to generate wild fucking thoughts.
Do you still have that journal? Do you still?
I have every journal. It's like Eminem. Did you ever watch the Eminem, like behind the music thing?
No.
It's a 60 Minutes interview. And they were like, of course, it's just like the oldest guy. He's like 70 years. He's like, so Marshall, it looks like you have a lyric box here. Could we go into that? And it's the scribblings of a fucking lunatic.
Yeah.
He's like, yeah, no, this might be something. He just reads them out. It's gibberish.
Yeah.
If that was written in blood on a wall, it would be like, get this guy some fucking help. Like,
yeah,
Eminem is a fucking insane person. He rapped about killing his wife. Like, that was why he was so, I think, like influential. Is like, Jesus Christ.
Yeah. Is he insane, or is he? And again, this is just my thought about it. Is he insane, or is he just comfortable with putting those thoughts out there? Because again,
he was right.
We've had those. Like, I've had many similar thoughts. And the reason I asked about the journal thing is because I actually have a journal similar to that, where I call it like my bad journal.
Yeah.
Like when I'm going through shit and I hate myself, like when I'm like feeling those things, like it's literally right in that drawer.
Yeah.
I write the worst things about myself.
Yeah.
Ever.
People that you love. I'll fucking throw other people under the bus. Like situations, people like, so and that is now via therapy, I can get to a point where it's like, I am having a very negative self-talk day.
Yeah.
Not now. This is, great. Like it's tough subject matter, like, but it's nice out, fucking, there are a lot of things going well in my life that I'm like, but like I woke up this morning, I was kind of like, I really wish I was getting like on stage more. Like I wish I was getting more stage time in relation to this person or that person. And so I woke up through a year of therapy. I was like, hey, you're waking up in like a bad headspace. You are comparing yourself to people who are not here.
Yeah.
And nobody's on stage right now because it's 7:30 in the morning. But there were full years of my life when I operated only in that headspace. I'm not good enough.
Yeah.
Oh, I just got this on a test. I can't fucking dip.
Yeah.
And that was why I was good at sports. That fucking guy just there's no fucking way he just beat me. Like I will get a penalty next time so that you don't fucking beat me again.
Yeah.
Even though that you are clearly better than, like, I would rather get a penalty and like try and hurt somebody than get beat again and get embarrassed.
Yeah. Interesting.
It's wild. It's a wild way to go through life.
It's so funny because like I literally even now just feel good getting like hearing your thoughts about this, getting those things out there.
Yeah.
The journal is again the way to get the ideas out of your brain, onto the paper, into the world. And there's actually, and this is I haven't tried this yet, but there's people who talk about like, if you write stuff down and then you light it on fire.
Yeah, that probably feels great.
And like literally, and again, thinking about it all as energy, which is again like I don't want to say goofy, but we don't know enough about like how all of it actually works, but there's got to be something to it. I mean, I heard somebody on a podcast talking about the other day, if you have two plants and the same exact plants and you tell a plant that you love them and feed positive words to that plant, or you tell a plant that you hate it and rip it apart, they grow differently.
Yeah.
And so thinking about that as a human being, a child, so like people, like again, we're taking in all of these words and they have an effect on our brains, our bodies in ways that I don't understand. I'm trying to.
Yeah.
But
we can agree it's not good.
Yeah.
If you're beating yourself up. Like, and there was a lot of feedback that I would get in my life. Like our old head coach in college.
Yeah.
We played lacrosse together. I had a head coach. I don't need to say his name. He's a great guy. He knows he's a great guy.
I also had a head coach.
Yeah. It was the same head coach. And I remember having like a really tough semester. I mean, I was boozing a ton. I think it might've been a time when I like took time off from drinking and I went in to see the head coach and I was like, I'm not doing well. I think I had like cried at practice at one point, like got real frustrated. And one of the assistant coaches was like, I don't know what's going on with you right now. I was like, I don't know either. I'm like crying. I'm like, I don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
Go to meet with the head coach. And I was like telling him like my situation. And halfway through he stopped. He's like, you are very hard on yourself. And I was like, no, I'm not. I didn't know I was hard on myself for most of my life. Like I'm real hard on myself. I hear like I'm remembering parts earlier in this conversation where I'm like, no, I'm a real like pretty intense negative person. That's just, I'm working on getting better, but there are like insane periods in my life where that was it. That was the full operating system was anger and spite and fear.
Yeah. It's just funny that you found again, the complete opposite way to deal with it. And I honestly, just relating like that's.
Well, there's the Rick Rubin book.
Yeah. So tell me about that. Like, I know you just mentioned quickly when we came in, you're like, yo, this book. And it's like, literally, I was like, I haven't read it. But
there's one, the creative way, I don't know, whatever. Rick Rubin's the master producer. He doesn't make anything. He just guides people who are making like cool shit, which is its own form of art. The editor of a movie is also an artist.
Yes.
And it's just ideas about art. But one thing that he said was like, he's like, it's wild that like some of the best singers who have ever lived have stage fright and they're shaking before they get on stage, but then they do it. And then they deliver like the greatest performance that you've ever seen in your life. And I've heard similar things about like Richard Pryor. But I think like what that thought process made me think of was like, and what they say in the book is like, there's the fear of expressing yourself. And that can be very high. But if your desire to express yourself goes above that, then you express yourself. But I think artists are operating at like, oh, I'm afraid 98%, but I want to express myself 99%. So it's 1% more. But those are still emotions that are like so fucking intense.
Yeah.
So even to get on stage, like people would like, like I think Richard Pryor would like throw up sometimes before he got on stage, and then he get on stage and he just delivers like, so like, I think people who try to create shit have super intense emotions, positive, negative, it doesn't matter. Like, but the art and practice of getting good at an art form is a form of therapy. And you can only produce great art for a while if everything else in your life is going well.
Yeah.
And so there are people who like, you can do like a real good album and then you never hear from those people again. Maybe that was all they were capable of. Maybe alcohol gets in the way, but like fucking Dave Grohl has produced greatness at every fucking level.
Yeah.
He seems to be pretty mellow. Billy Joel hasn't written a new album in a while because he's an alcoholic. Like Bruce Springsteen seems to be still released. You know what I mean? So like, I think mental health is a priority for artists because if you want longevity, it is a really intense process for a really long period of time.
It's funny. So I have, I go to this, like, it's like a social WeWork type of club here in Philadelphia. And I listened to a guy do a talk on his bipolar. He's just had he's been like medicated his entire life. And he just told his life story again for the same thing, to like help others and figure stuff out. And we were talking about the manic state, because I get into these, especially sometimes I honestly do it on purpose, where through like fasting, things like that, because my most creative energy is in those states.
Yes.
And I said to him, I said, like, and it was a day I had coffee. I think I had fasted for 36 hours before I met with him. And I was like, I don't want to let it go. Sometimes I don't want to let it go. I don't want to let that, again, whether it's the pain, the hardships, like whatever that is, then that like chaos is where beauty comes from. And like, look at Kanye West. I mean, that's like, couldn't be a more perfect example of, and again, that's a lot of people. And he said, every person that has like a touch of a lot of this stuff, nobody wants to let it go. It's the most common thread, because especially in a creative process, you're like, well, can I do it without it?
Yeah.
Can I do it if it's, but it's again, like you're saying, the people who do it forever are the ones who figure out how to do it without getting into those kinds of states.
Yeah. Alcohol, girls, what are I think Seinfeld said it, like, and so stand-up comedy is an extreme behavior in terms of like, I know a kid who lived in his car for years. He just lived in New Jersey. And we'd come into the city for open mics. We're like, that kid is like, he's living in his car. And then he moved to Austin and he became Joe Rogan's opener. The quality of life that he had when he was living in a car, there's nothing in my life that I would trade for that. Yeah. But he's Joe Rogan's opener now.
Yeah.
I don't know. You know what I mean? Like that's a really maladaptive behavior of like living in your car. Yeah. That is rewarded beyond he's one of the most successful people in my peers of comedians who have like started doing shit. Like so like maladaptive behavior in comedy can get rewarded. Yeah. And that's, and in anywhere. Like that's the, like finance is like a perfect, if I do coke at work, I can like, and it doesn't have to be coke. Like obviously that's like the stereotype. But
I'm like FTX would be not a bad example of, they literally tweeted about using amphetamines to do better work, or like to do work longer. And I guess to put a pin on that, part is that, and we'll say this all the time, it's like the line between genius and crazy is razor thin. Yeah. And like, again, living in your car doing that, that's crazy. Yeah. But he's a genius. Yes. So like, like you kind of.
Yeah. I don't know if I'd trade places with him.
Wow. It's a good thought. Interesting.
Yeah. Cause so getting close to, and I'm sure it's in every field, but the most successful person is not the most well-adjusted person. I have a marriage that I care very deeply about, siblings I care real deeply about. There are, I think, morals. I'm not big on morality. I think everything's subjective, but there are certain things, and then also just like quality of life. Like I will not violate my quality of life anymore to the extent that I used to. Yeah. I'll still cut corners where like I'm on heartburn meds because I eat fucking tacos at 11 p.m. and then try and go to sleep immediately. Yeah. So those are like, I will make, and this is probably an announcement of like, I don't think I'll ever be great at comedy. Wow. Because I will not sacrifice long-term quality of life in pursuit of greatness, because I don't think it's worth it. I don't think Tim Dillon will ever be happy. Wow. How could he be?
I don't know too much. I don't know too much about him. Yeah. That just you saying that makes me think like, so what's your goal?
It would be to land in like the upper, I'd like to make 100,000 doing comedy. That'd be cool.
And just get through life with that in a normal.
And then whatever the vehicle for that is, if it's, my EU USA series, check it out on Instagram. If that if that hits and it become, and I become a writer for a show or something like that.
Yeah.
Or,
do you have one? And I've got some deeper questions on this a little bit later, but do you have one that you would want? Like, what's your perfect making it look like?
It's pretty close to what I'm doing now. I think monetizing the podcast would be cool. I think monetizing touring would be cool. Supplement the income with that. I think making more money in New York would be cool. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's possible that I'll never get to 100% comedy income.
Yeah.
Because I value quality of life for me and my wife too much.
That's really cool.
How could I say I'm going to be the greatest at all costs? Like,
yeah. And
it's not just me that it will cost.
Yeah. And you have to sacrifice, because I think about, and before this, you mentioned you were thinking about kids at, like, you're 30 now, but like 35.
Yeah. 33, 35, 36, somewhere around there.
Yeah. So you bring that into the mix, and then again, if you're traveling,
I'll win at all costs.
9 minutes.
What? You have a kid?
Yeah.
No, all costs.
Yeah.
It's not just your cost. And that's just like me with like one dependent. Like, my wife is not a dependent, but like me and her are currently on my health insurance from my day job as a video producer.
Yeah.
So if I am going to fucking quit and go all in, like, not possible.
Yeah.
Right now. I did like really reckless, like, was living like, I use the phrase a lot. I lived like a raccoon, like a literal raccoon. I wasn't even human. Like, some open mic comedians are not human anymore. They're just all mic. And I think that periods of time like that are essential to doing well in a craft.
Yeah.
You should lose yourself in it. But you can't live in that space forever. Or if you do, you better hope that Joe Rogan picks you as his opening.
Yeah.
Like, and you can't control that. So like,
yeah, wait, that's unreal.
Yeah.
All right. So hard left turn here. And we already talked a little bit just about like COVID stuff. Like, how did you deal with that as a comedian? Because again, so much comedy, you're in person.
Yeah.
You're performing, you're feeding off that energy. It's part of your life. It's ingrained in your everyday.
Yeah.
All of a sudden it shuts down. And like, you can't. So like, how did you deal with that emotionally, mentally? Just what was that?
What you mean,
process
like panic attacks and comedy?
Well, no, I would just say just like all of a sudden your stand up is taken away from you for the year.
Oh,
or whatever it is. Like, how did you have it? So maybe you didn't even think about it, or
yeah. We're talking about like the pandemic, or
like did it affect you from like all of a sudden you can't go on stage for however long?
Give me a social media following.
So I wrote like the positives and the negatives.
Yeah. That was essential.
So that's what you turned to. So is that when you started posting content?
Yeah. So I tweeted first.
Oh, that's right, dude.
I would tweet like nonstop for like years.
That's right.
And one of those tweets, do you want to know the genesis of a successful Instagram series?
Yeah.
I had a tweet. I had probably like a couple tweets go, get like a couple hundred, maybe like a couple thousand likes.
Yeah.
Twitter is the hardest. That was, and obviously Musk Twitter is like, I don't even know what the fucking rules are anymore. But like, I was early open mic days. It was like, tweet as much as you can and never post any videos online. That was like the guidance. It was like, you're not good, so don't put any videos up.
Okay.
Because people will think you're not good because you're not. So keep that secret. Shove that down that you're not good. And like, for the most part, I like adhered to that. I would put material online like occasionally on YouTube. But so in like 2016, 2017, tweeting a lot, sometimes like 5 times a day, 10 times a day, 3 times a day. Sometimes you forget. Sometimes you go weeks without it. I hate people who are like, I do this every day. It's like, no. So I'd tweet every day, multiple times a day. And there was one tweet I had. I remember I was about to get on the subway, and it was like, European. It was just like tax. It was like European colon. I have 100 vacation days a year. American, like I got stabbed and I still have to go to work. Like not, it's like it's fine. But that tweet did real well. Got like a couple thousand retweets, couple thousand likes, follows go up a little bit. And I was like, oh, that was cool. And then you had like, the other thing was like people genuinely commenting on it. Like, no, this happened to me. Yeah. I was forced to go to work because even though I had like an open wound, like so that was a thing that happened in like 2016, 2017. I was like, well, that's weird. I just didn't act on it or do anything with it. I think I like tried to make it like a joke on stage. And then the pandemic hits and TikTok starts. I'm sure TikTok started before then, but then you see comedians starting to like put their shit online. And I was like, well, I don't have any stand-up clips, so let me just do some like straight to camera stuff. And I had like one or two go like, I had a weird joke about like Justin Timberlake in World War I that got like 500,000 views like pretty early on. So it was like within the first 10 that I posted on TikTok, I had one that hit like many hundreds of thousands. I was like, holy shit. Wow. Okay, that felt good.
Yeah.
And so I just like kept trying, like advancing, like doing straight to camera stuff, like different subject matter. And then I did one that was like, I saw a guy do like a comparison video that was like trying to get a job in the 70s versus trying to get a job now. And it was like pretty funny.
Yeah.
And I was like, what if I did one that was like in that format that was like, it was like an old timey guy. It was like, I make a nickel a day. And yeah,
I remember that video.
The hand was weird. Like there was like music in the background. So, but that was a comparison video of like 1900s versus 2000s.
Yeah, but it worked. It was funny.
And that got like 1 million views.
Yeah.
And like many thousands and I mean, TikTok just like, I don't think Instagram Reels even existed at that point. And I got like many, many thousands of followers and many, 1 million views and like many hundreds of thousands of likes. And I was like, holy shit. And then the next one I did was like EU USA. And I was like, what if I repackaged the tweet that I had that went viral in like a European version and I like modify it? And that hit like 3 million. And so then those two were going. And then with the EU USA thing, I was like 1900s, like 2000s, like for whatever reason, I was like, I don't know if there's that much there.
Yeah.
And then the EU USA thing happened. And on the first one, I was like, oh, that was pretty good. And I did another one and that one got like a couple 100,000.
So is that the same feeling from starting out in stand up where you're like, oh, okay, I know this is funny?
Yes. That was like undeniable. But it was also like, this is the Chinese government and most of these likes probably aren't real. And, like realistic. And, I didn't quit my job.
Yeah.
But it was like a couple million views. And then I had so this was probably around 2021, January. Yeah, I'd say like winter 2021.
Yeah.
Thereabouts. And I said the thought out loud. I was like, oh, I'm going to do 100 of these. Because I was like, that format works.
Yeah.
And the European perspective just comes from my wife, who is an Australian. But every country outside of America thinks that America is fucking insane. And Americans don't know that. Americans with any exposure to like internationals, like they know. Because the internationals every day are like, another shooting? And we have to be like, yeah. You have to like, so every day I was like confronted with that. Like my girlfriend's parents, like, I mean, it was my girlfriend at the time. And then it was just like me and her like talking, like, what are some other differences? Like,
yeah.
And then it was just like subject matter. And then I've probably done like 50 or 60, 70 of them now. And then varying success. There's like a year when I was like, oh, 30,000 Instagram followers. That's enough.
Yeah.
And I just stopped and like, didn't have like, I was touring a lot with Eric. So I just didn't have like as much time. I wasn't prioritizing it. I was like, let me do stand-up clips. Maybe the algorithm will like that. Yeah. Algorithm doesn't like when I do stand-up.
Yeah. So that's the thing. I actually was thinking about this earlier. It's like, do you care what it is? I guess if your end goal is to be able to make a living doing this full time and not have to worry about anything. Yeah. Do you care what avenue that, like, so like your Europe versus USA, I was wondering before, I was like, I wonder if that bothers you that those go get 1 million views and then your stand-up gets like 20,000. Yeah. Which is obviously still incredible, but yeah, does that bother you?
It does. I have a lot of fun making them.
That's awesome. That's sick.
There's like, and like, I enjoy making them. Number one, I've gotten better at it and it takes less effort.
Mm-hmm.
It's still probably like an hour or 2 hours, sometimes like 3 hours. And I only usually write in like hour and a half, 2 hour chunks. Because I mean, even sitting for 2 hours writing is like really difficult.
Yeah.
In terms of just getting distracted and, you know. So like I can usually pound them out in like hour and a half block, 2 hour block, 3 hour block. And that's just to get the script, and then filming it is probably like another like 45 minutes. And that probably like, there's definitely easier ways to do it, but this is just the easiest way for me to do it. So I don't feel constrained by it yet. I think it's corny. I think my stand-up is better.
So do you like it? Do you think they're fun? So you enjoy doing it?
I think they're funny.
Yeah.
There's a bunch of them that are funny.
Yeah.
There are times when I put it out and I'm like, this isn't it.
Have any surprised you where it's like, you didn't think that was funny, but you're like, all right, I did all the work and I'll just put it out. And then it like,
no, I mean, they're all like, that's what's kind of nice is like, they're not high effort in terms of, I mean, I have friends who like, you know, they'll shoot a sketch outside. I'm just doing it in my apartment. So if it doesn't do well, and then there's also an inertia too, right? So like once you get to like 10,000 followers, getting to 10,000 followers is really fucking difficult. Getting from 10,000 to 20,000 is not that hard. Getting from 30,000 to 60,000, less hard than it is to get from 0 to 10,000.
Yeah.
Because then you have enough people, you have a rapport with the people online. So even if I bomb, I'm not going to get under 50,000. And there are comedians who are my peers who would get 50,000 and be thrilled.
Yeah.
So the success begets success. It's still hard work, but it's definitely less effortful.
Interesting. I know, I mean, I've scrolled through your comments. Like you respond to a lot of comments.
Yeah, definitely on the first day. And here's another complicated thing. Social media is cancer.
Yeah.
How about that? How about it's killing teenagers? You know, like suicidality amongst teenagers and the use of iPhones. They look like similar hockey stick graphs. Like, so that's a complicated feeling, I think, is knowing that social media is bad and being thankful that it is, you know, I think led to a comedy explosion that I don't think everybody is really reckoning with. Like, it's stand-up comedy is the most popular now that it's ever been, and it's growing. Like, so that's probably a regret of like, I wish I could find success outside of platforms that I believe to be bad for humanity as a whole. I would like to be able to do just touring, but I think my plan is like the EU USA shit. Okay, whatever reason, for now, the algorithm on Instagram really likes it. On TikTok, not so much. Even though I started on TikTok, and that, like, so even that is like they're fickle beasts of just
weird.
Things change all the time. Even the fucking people who design it are like, I have no idea why. You know, and there's so many, like, we can't even get into all the issues with
that's what some people are talking about. Again, I told you about like doing reels with this or the short videos like this.
Yeah.
It's like, honestly, dude, like I don't even want to care about that.
Yeah.
Like I'm like, if I care about that, like it takes away from this. And like if I care enough about this and just keep caring about this, like, and again, it's just being an art form. And it is so weird, as I mentioned, to think about, you know.
Yeah. And then here's kind of like a big dick thought. Cause like social media is addicting. If you open TikTok, do you remember like the early days of like opening TikTok? It was crack, dude. It was wild.
I downloaded TikTok for one day.
Yeah.
That's exactly what happened. I deleted it.
Yeah.
I said, I know myself. I cannot do this. And I never did it. And I don't watch real, like, again, I follow people and look at content, but like, I don't scroll on the reels. Like it is.
No, this delivery mechanism is fucking wild. It's like probably the equivalent of like putting a time release capsule on OxyContin. Like, you know what I mean? Like it's changed people's brain chemistry.
Yeah.
So that's how addictive it is for somebody who's not doing well on social media. I'm doing well on social media. There are people who are doing significantly better than me. There's a lot of people who are doing worse than me. Mm-hmm. When I open my phone, it's in airplane mode. It's over there. Yeah. It's in my bag. If I open my phone right now, I'm on a pretty good streak with like clips. I would have and I opened the notifications, it would be 100 new followers, 100 new comments, 100 new likes. That's overnight. Like that happens as well. If I'm having a good week of clips, 3 clips, 4 clips, sometimes 5 clips, or I'm reposting clips that like did real well.
Do you have your notifications on for that?
I have my notifications off. I don't have the Instagram app on my phone.
Nice.
When I release it, I download the Instagram app. I film it on the Instagram app. I post it. I get my dopamine fix for, like an hour or so.
Yeah.
And then I have an app on my phone that it's a VPN that blocks all social media apps.
Wow.
And I am obviously a fucking cocaine addict, so I'm going to delete the app and then go onto the site and then re-download it. Or, this club only communicates with me via Instagram, so I have to download it for that. And then now I'm on the train. So it's a constant battle, a constant fight. But Instagram is not on my phone if I'm winning the battle.
Yeah, that's interesting.
So you talked about responding to comments. I do that in the first day in the dopamine high. And I can't respond to everybody else for my mental health.
Yes, yeah.
And then there's one EU USA thing that I do that like the comments are like actively racist. It's a lot of I block the ones that I like can get around, but like it's a lot of anti-immigration hate. Every time I repost it, people just get into these fucking fights. I don't know what's going on there.
Yeah.
I know what's going on. I'm making a pretty nuanced point about race and immigration, which I tried really hard to make. But to live in the comments and to engage with everybody is not healthy.
Yeah.
So the first day, first hour, if you comment on my shit in the first hour, I will respond to you. Everything outside of that, I'm ignoring it. I can't be race police.
Yeah, it's
in the fucking comments section.
Yeah, it's funny you say that with deleting the app, because I have being off social media for 3 years, downloading it just for the sake of putting this stuff out there. Literally the only reason I did it, but I still find myself like, again, my rule is like I don't scroll.
Yeah.
So I open it up and I see the top post, and then I'll like either I'll respond to a DM or look at a story or like whatever it is. If it's like a close friend, I'll do that. But I try to close it immediately. But I have this app that's called 1 Sec.
Yeah, I've seen that.
Yeah, you download it and then it makes you breathe in and breathe out before, and then they ask you like, do you really want to open this app?
Yeah.
And it's funny, like I've found it so helpful for the first couple months.
Then your brain gets around it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Then, like every other thing in life.
Exactly. And then I'm like, now I find myself, especially when I'm trying to do something quickly or like respond to somebody so I can like, whatever. And then I'm like, I'm so mad that it's making me breathe in. And it's like has the opposite effect of,
But the first step in that is like admitting, which everybody knows on some level, hey, this shit is not good for you.
Yeah.
It's not good for developing brains, period. And it's probably not good for adults.
It's actually kind of good timing because so next topic I had out here written down is just like growing up playing lacrosse.
Yeah.
So another hard left turn, hard right turn. I started playing when I was like 5 years old. My entire life has been playing lacrosse. When did you first get a stick in your hands?
11, 12, probably thereabouts. No, 10, 11. One is like 3rd grade.
How'd you get into it?
There's a clinic. I don't even think we played other teams, and had like really shitty sticks, really bad sticks. I think my parents signed me up for it. I mean, I played every sport.
Yeah.
And then I was probably just naturally the best at lacrosse.
Yeah.
And I liked it the best. And the people who played it were cool.
Yeah, I've talked about that. And I mean, on here, off here, there's something interesting about lacrosse, just from a culture standpoint. And it gets shredded, and it sucks that the Duke bullshit tainted for so long.
And I think all college athletes are pieces of shit on like a higher degree than the general population. I think football players are giant pieces of shit. You know what I mean? Like they drink, they get into fights. I think every demographic of athlete in college, if they are abusing alcohol, has a propensity for violence, harassment, all of those things. And I don't think that lacrosse players, it happens at a higher rate.
Yeah.
I think every issue on campus is like, it's an alcohol issue and the power of not getting in trouble.
Yeah. It's funny because I remember in college, I don't even remember why I was looking into this, but the rates of drinking in different sports.
Yeah.
And like basketball was like the least.
Interesting.
And I wonder again, with contact.
Yeah.
Physical, like basketball's like, physically tough sport, obviously. But like, I mean, football, you're smashing your bodies into each other. Rugby.
Yeah.
Lacrosse, you've got a 6-foot stick.
Yeah.
I always love when people ask me, like, doesn't that hurt? Like, I never felt it.
No, you don't at the time.
Yeah, I never felt it, just the adrenaline or whatever. But like, you're swinging sticks at each other and you can hit each other like football at different points. But you kind of like, I mean, alcohol makes sense to turn to.
Yes.
At that age, again, like you're talking college athletes, it's like 18 years old to 22.
So your brain is not done developing until it's like, what, 26, 25, something like that? Like
you're smashing into each other. Yeah.
So I think like, I loved lacrosse. I loved playing it. I loved getting good at it because everybody starts not good at it, but everybody it was cool to start when everybody else was pretty much starting. And so you all sucked and you didn't know you sucked.
Yeah.
And then you get better and then like people like start to get better or bigger or stronger. So like it's an athletic career, like I think prepares you for life because you already live and die once. You start as like, hey, I'm not good at this thing. And then you get to a level, a long college career, like you get to a level where it's like, oh, I got good. And then it ends.
Yeah.
Like I think it's a good lesson.
Yeah. I mean, I could go on and on for the lessons learned, the friends made again. Like obviously we met through lacrosse and to be able to have those kinds of friendships. And I was talking to my dad the other day and I was like, yeah, just like, I just don't like, I refereed lacrosse since I think I reffed my first lacrosse game at 12 years old.
Yeah, that's wild.
And I reffed and I've literally I've been this height since I was in 5th grade. So I'm 5'7.5" in 5th grade.
Yeah.
And I like reffed and I grew facial hair early on. So I would ref my same grade. And I remember one time in 8th grade, I reffed a high school lacrosse game.
Yeah.
And this was like a summer league and whatnot. But I was talking about reffing and I was like, I just fell out of contact with the entire sport.
Yeah.
Which kind of like, I think about, I wish I didn't. I've like all my boys who especially play D1 are like watching their lacrosse games online. They're keeping up with their teams. And like, I just don't care. I wish I did care a little bit more because the sport gave me so much.
Yeah.
So I'd like to, figure that out for myself. But the sport, what does it mean? What does it or what did it mean to you from, just like emotional caring standpoint? Because, and I want to preface this with, I wrote my email. I don't know if you saw it. I said like, you were the hardest working player on the field in the weight room. And not only that, like you cared not only about the sport, but the people.
Yeah.
And like, I guess I would just say like basic ass question, why?
It is complicated. I mean, the nice thing about athletics is you make friends without knowing it. Like I'd assume it's probably the same for like drama in high school, but like there's something about sports, high school sports, competitive sports, even if your team like sucks, like it's like primal, it's testosterone, it's you just become really good friends with people without knowing that it's happening. Like you don't say, I'm going to play sports to make friends. Maybe your parents think it, but you're not there like, oh, it's like, no, I'm just going to do well in this drill. And then I'm going to do well in that drill. And oh my God, I got fucking destroyed in that drill. So I'm going to try and do better in this drill. And I can work on this on my own.
Yeah.
I'm going to go do that so that this doesn't happen again. Like, but you make friends without trying. It's zero effort. And the effort that it takes to make friends as you get later in life is like so much. Nobody has time. Even to maintain the relationships that you've already done the hard work of making is like difficult. And you don't realize it at the time, but like, I mean, in high school, like I didn't interact with anybody that didn't play sports. So that's like, it's community. It is tailor-made to make community, which is really nice. Why did I care in college? There was a really specific incident that was, I when I was a sophomore. So I would say like I went to a good high school for lacrosse.
Yeah, because wait, you guys were like, what was it, state champs or?
Not while I was there, but like just like a successful program. It was on the up and up. I don't think we won any. Might have like won our league, which maybe, I don't know. I think they started winning after we left, but like it was a pretty reputable high school.
And it's still a big deal.
Yeah.
At that point. And
the lacrosse team now is unbelievable.
Yeah.
They're like really fucking good.
I had a club lacrosse coach that told me, he said, like, it was like we were in a league that wasn't all that great compared to like the one or two other leagues surrounding us.
Yeah.
And he's like, we were in the championship, and he called me before, and he was like, "This is the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
You're going to remember this." And I still do. And he was right. The advice was perfect. It was spot on. I was like,
yeah,
there's no bigger game that the same could be said for War on the Shore.
Yeah.
I was like, it does matter. That is the biggest game of any game in the world right now. So like when you're in it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's nice. It gives you importance.
Yeah.
You feel important. You make friends. All the endorphins that you get from playing sports. That's good.
Yeah.
Physical development. That's cool. Ooh, my muscles are putty that I can make as big or as small as I want. Obviously, it's not that easy. And like, but you know.
Yeah. I was more of the putty. You were more of the.
Yeah, but like, that's another thing is like genetically, I probably have like an ability to put on mass pretty quickly, like, so, and those are all like nice things to have.
Yeah.
But in college, my freshman year, I was like literally ranked the second worst defender on the depth chart. I saw the depth chart like real early freshman year. And then like later in college, they would put the depth chart. So I was like, okay, I was pretty good in high school. Mm-hmm. And there was a kid who went to Fairfield, who was a defender, who was amazing. And I was like, I'm not that good. No, that's a D1 person. Like, dude, his dad played like college football. He's just built fucking differently. No, that's not me. I'm like pretty good. And I would try in games. Like, I think I got like the Hustle Award my senior year in high school. Yeah. But like doing work on my own and shit wasn't like really a huge priority. And then I got into college, I was like kind of riding off of like the same like hard work. Freshman year, I was like, I'm like pretty good. Like sophomore year, I'll probably start. And then sophomore year starts, and this fucking kid who was literally the worst defender on the team joined the Marines over the summer and came back in the best shape that he's ever been in. And he took my spot, which was never my spot. I thought it was my spot, and it wasn't my spot. And that was a very clear indicator of like, dude, everyone knows that you're better than this kid. And he worked harder than you on his own when no one was watching. Like that was it. That was the clearest lesson. It was like, that spot was yours. And that was how I interpreted it. It was like, it was your spot. You could have been starting on a like nationally ranked college, like D3 team your sophomore year, but you didn't because a kid joined the fucking Marines. And after that, I was like, all right, that's not going to happen again. So going from sophomore to junior year, that was when I was like, I did every single thing in the workbook.
Yeah.
Because there's nothing else. What else was I I didn't care about anything else. I cared about drinking and trying to get with girls.
Yeah.
But it was like, I'm there for lacrosse. The school sucks. It's not a reputable school. Everybody who goes here who's not a lacrosse player is a nerd. This is all what I thought at the time.
Yeah.
And don't think so now. No, it's like, no, it's like so I was like, if it's the only fucking reason I'm there, then I'm not going to get beat out again. So like I worked real hard, like wall ball. I didn't start doing wall ball until my junior year of college.
Yeah.
And I didn't need to. I was a defender. I could get away with it. But then that was when it clicked for me when I was like 17, 18, where I was like, and time's running out. So if my spot gets stolen again, then I'm missing out on a full season. So then sophomore to junior year was when I got most improved and started every game. And then junior year to senior year was when I got MVP.
Yeah.
And like all conference. So I was like, it was really just from that really hard lesson of like, that fucking kid sucked.
Yeah.
He started over me. And so then that was it. And I wanted to win. And I wanted personal accolades really badly. And a lot of things broke correctly so that I could be in that position.
Yeah.
And then the ball was in my court and I was like, hey, here's the fucking weightlifting packet. You can do it or not. It doesn't really matter. And I was like, nah, I think I'm going to do it.
Yeah, I did that too. I just filled it out the night before.
Yeah.
I just didn't touch.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I was gonna say, like, I just thought, like, I kind of regret that. I kind of don't. I'm pretty okay with, how everything ended up. We're here. I'm happy about
I know what's
that.
insane is how little it matters.
Doesn't matter at all.
To the outside world. Like, so I am disciplined in working out now still. I have highs and lows. Currently, I'm disciplined. If I go to like 0 in terms of working out, I don't work out for a couple of weeks. I can pick it back up easily.
Yeah.
And that is over a decade and a half of working out every fucking day. So like, that's already like, that's good. That's a good thing. The learning the importance of hard work and discipline, that's also cool. Friends for life. Yeah. That's nice. But nobody knows the college that I went to. I can explain it, that we went to. It's not on a map. It might not exist in 5 years. It doesn't look like it's doing
Things
great.
Not looking good.
No one knows what the Centennial Conference is. Nobody knows that we won it. Nobody knows that we had the best winning percentage in school history. I have all Americans that like are friends with me, and they just have kids now, and the kids don't care that they're
just normal people.
All American. Like, so that's an important lesson, is that we're making sandcastles.
Yeah.
Work very, very hard, because all of the auxiliary benefits are very important.
Yeah.
And they don't go away. But nobody gives a shit if you won. Nobody gives a shit if you lost every game.
Yeah.
Your whole life.
And it's funny that the way that you're saying about this now, about lacrosse, I think about like jobs in the real world too. Mm-hmm. And even like this, what we're doing right now, even your comedy.
Yeah.
Like, there's people who don't care, who will never care. And again, it's like, we're all just, I have a good friend who made a joke. He's like, I like jobs, like people take it so serious. Like, nobody wants to be there.
Yeah.
Everyone just wants to gather the resources by making money to do whatever they want to do in life. Like we were talking about.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to be there. And like, you got to remember that when you're talking to the CEO, or CEO could be a little bit different if they're a founder or something, but like, you're a manager, like, and like, they're also just people. And like, that's, again, being like, I've stepped away from, I've been unemployed past couple months, and like, I really, really enjoy it, because it brought me back to reality and like the world. Yeah. That like, wait, I took this so seriously. I thought that these people were like gods. Yeah. Nobody cares.
Well, yeah. And it's just going into different kingdoms of like everything in life is like, if I'll get, and that's what the issue with comedy and like any pursuit is like, dude, I guarantee you, when you get to the top of the mountain, you also have to go down the mountain, like, but it's that pursuit is not, the attainment is not fulfillment. Mm-hmm. You will not be fulfilled. Fulfillment is a process that happens every day, that you fall short on some days, and other days you push the ball like slightly forward. But the pursuit of attaining a goal is the valuable thing. Yeah. And also, we're all fucking monkeys on a spinning rock. And this is all just to distract ourselves from the fact that we don't live much longer past like 80 years. So it's like, however you can occupy your time in a way that is like beneficial to the people who are immediately around you. Like, if it's Satanism, go for it. Like, none of it matters. Yeah. Lacrosse doesn't matter. Well, guess what? Nothing matters.
And that makes me, and honestly, I remember they talk about, somebody at Harvard does a yearly talk about this, that like, nothing matters at all. And that should make you, in a way, feel a little bit better about the fact. And like, that for me has made me feel better about doing all this. Like, it's like, I'm just chasing the goal. And like, for me, my goal is just to have the best podcast in the world. Yes. It doesn't mean the biggest podcast in the world. That means the best. That means like getting all this shit set up. Like, I didn't do beforehand, but like, and like making an impact and all those things, like just being the best. If I just keep chasing that, stuff will, again, I will keep myself entertained the entire time to distract myself from all the other, ups and downs in life. Yeah.
And then you'll get you'll get a year in and feel better about the way you were a year before, and then another year, and then like, it's taking stock of the daily steps that you take, being grateful for those, and acknowledging that like, okay, you're moving forward like a little bit, and then taking a step back and being like, but that's also just a hamster on a wheel. But you should enjoy your time on the wheel.
Yeah. That's, I like that.
Yeah.
I'm going to remember that.
But most people don't even get to that point. Most people are just like,
yeah,
you kind of just go on autopilot doing everything that, society thinks you should do.
Yeah. And just figuring out, again, like you said, like finding something that you can enjoy, because some people do enjoy the work. Like, I have so many friends that are salespeople. It's like, they love,
dude. Yeah.
the conversations, the chase, everything. And
relationship building, talking to clients, like building, like, I wish that I wish that I could find fulfillment in a thing that was kind of more acceptable and that sounds nice. And I think some of it's like megalomania. Like me and my wife like talk about me being a narcissist. Like I think narcissism is like a zero, like you are or you aren't, but it's like I have narcissistic tendencies. I have egotistical tendencies. Like there is a belief in superiority in terms of my comedy. And that's weird. That's wild.
I wonder why it's weird. Like, and this is like a society question.
Yeah.
Is like, why is it weird? Because it is. And I do think that and I think that about myself.
Yeah.
I'm recording conversations with my friends and putting it out there to the world.
Yeah.
Because I think that I have the ability to be entertaining or helpful or anything enough to make it of value to others.
Yeah.
While also being of value to me. Like that's narcissistic in ways.
But I would defend your pursuit in terms of like you and me both have concrete experiences of mental illness and finding out that somebody else was going through it and the benefit of even, so I would say there's more value in your pursuit than in comedy. And like me and my therapist talk about this all the time where he's like, comedy is not valueless. And I'm like, I'm pretty sure it's just like a step above karaoke. Like, and my wife is like, stop saying that. And I'm like, no, I really like, it's a way I can communicate with people. There's been some really cool like DMs I'll get on Instagram of people. Like there was this Brazilian woman who was like, hey, I'm an English teacher in Brazil and I use your videos to teach my kids English.
Shut up.
And I was like, that is so fucking nice and not at all ever what I wanted to fucking do. Like my therapist's point is like, he's like, I have really depressed clients and finding humor and joy for them is like very important. And I don't think you realize that like there are a lot of people who have like joyless lives. Mm-hmm. But if you can bring joy to those people, like, then that's valuable. And it's like, cool. That's not why I fucking do it. I do it for, I want to get good at this thing, or fuck, I'm not good at this thing yet. Let me get good at this thing. Oh my God, I'm good at it. Look at that. Like I just fucking did it. And people recognizing my value is really important of like, hey, you did good. It's like, yeah, thanks. Good. Cool. Like, why does that matter so much to me? Like, so that's going back to like somebody who has like a sales job and who could just like ride it, make meaningful relationships, start a family or not start a family. Maybe that's not your thing. Maybe it's just having tons of gay sex. I don't know what salespeople do. Who can say what a salesperson does? But I think my journey is weird. And I'm coming to terms with like, it's also just my hardwiring.
Yeah.
Of like, hey, there's a lot of work that you can do for yourself. But like, if I'm in a group of people, A, you're not going to hear me fucking talk. Or B, I'm going to say the funniest thing.
Yeah. Wow.
I'm getting better at like interacting and like recognizing the value of making relationships, making small talk, asking questions. That's like a difficult thing for me. And like my boss, I bombed at a dinner. Not the show with 300 people. I can do fine. But it was just a dinner where it was like the fucking music was loud and I was with people who I was like, wasn't really vibing with. And my wife was next to me. She was like, are you okay? And I'm just like, yeah, no, I just like can't really get into this conversation. I had to like talk to my therapist about it.
Wait, time out. So this is you just went
just a dinner.
You're not performing.
Not performing.
See, this is like me. Like I'm so interested in your brain. Like
Yeah.
you said, the way it's hardwired. You bombed at a dinner.
I was like, I'm eating it right now. I'm not like these conversations are going on around me. I'm not following any of them. I'm not thinking of anything good to say or funny to say. And then I was like, just ask the girl next to you what her fucking job is. But then it's like, then I was like, but I should know. I've known this girl for a while. I can't just say. Yeah. And then I was like, so that was like an hour. Just like, it was a wash. I just think so in my head.
Yeah. It's just so funny that you think about it as bombing and like performance, because that's another thing that's kind of a struggle is like, when is Dan? When is Dan comedy? Dan, when is Dan? Like something I'm interested in and curious about is like, are you Zell the comedian or are you just Zell?
Even if I would find, with the knowledge of, if every form of comedic self-expression got taken away, like, hey, no more comedy, no more Instagram, no more TikTok, no more podcasts.
Yeah.
I would still I would be the person whispering at a wedding. Like, can you fucking believe this?
Yeah, like you still commit.
What the fuck? That is always who I've been. My wife was like, there was a wedding that was like the bride's music cut out.
Yeah.
And just like, I'm not going to say it out loud. Like, that's never the thing. It's never like everybody look at me, but if it's the person next to me, it's going to be like, she looks pretty fucking stupid right now. Like, that's always going to be it.
Yeah. So that's the thing. Like that's and kind of also why I was like, dude, it's just going to work for you because that's just you.
Yeah.
And that's just like, you've always been a comedian. And like you said, if it gets taken away, you're still a comedian.
Yeah.
You're just a jokester. You're just funny and you just make jokes and that's how you get through life. And that's how you just, and I don't even always want to say that's something I'm trying to figure out through this podcast. Obviously it's a mental health podcast. We want to talk about these to again, just put the stuff out there to make the conversations that can be had. But at the end of the day, like sometimes like you're just funny.
Yeah.
Like sometimes like it's not just because you're dealing with shit. It's not just because like, it's just because you're funny and that's it.
Yeah.
Like,
I have a deep need for people to approve of me comedically, and that's never going to go away. And I don't know where that comes from. That I can't foresee that. Like, I'm always going to try and make my wife laugh. Like, I'm always going to say like shit that is like not uncomfortable, but like trying to relieve tension in my life. I'm always going to try and do it with comedy.
Yeah. It's not a bad way to be. I mean, there's other ways to do it. I mean, it's something that I personally get tripped up in is like, again, I want to understand why.
Yeah.
To every single question, every single answer. So I read all these books. I'm trying to connecting dots. And like, I'm so sometimes, and then like, I recently, and we're going to talk about this too, about meditation. I recently stepped away from meditating. I was like one of the people who's meditating every single day. And like you said, if somebody's in the gym every single day, things aren't right. I got to a point and so I'll take a step back here and I'll tell the story about how I started meditating and your massive influence in my life.
Yeah.
And that's something where maybe you didn't even recognize how important you were to me, because I 3 years ago went through like a little, before COVID, psychotic break.
Yeah.
And I believe it was even slightly before that I gave you a call one day, spilled my trauma and life story at you. And I was freaking out and I was panicking. And you said, dude, go home or go downstairs into your basement, go in the closet, turn all the lights off and take 10 deep breaths for me. And that's all you got to do. And like, I did that. And then like, I called you back or I called another number 25, Fogo. I think you know what I'm talking about. Got it. Called him and he helped me too. And I just like, it like saved me in that moment. And I haven't stopped. Until just taking a couple week break. But meditation is something that in that moment, it like got me out of that. And I've since that day, and we haven't even caught up or, chatted
it's been a while
in years, but every time I was sitting down, it was because you got me there.
Yeah.
And like, that's something that again, to say like how much you mean to me as a friend, person, and somebody that I look up to. Every time I sat down, that doesn't happen without you. So first off, just to say thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome, man. I'm happy I could help.
Yeah, because it was insane. And like like you said, like those insane thoughts, like what I thought was like I was like going nuts. And I like and meditation, helped me out of that. But to talk about it, I think I used it too much as a crutch. And then when you're doing it every single day, recently I realized like if I don't meditate, like my whole day's off and I'm gonna have a bad day automatically.
Yeah.
So if you get that, like that's when I started to view it as an addiction versus, either a coping mechanism or just like a habit or like a healthy habit. You want to have a healthy relationship with all those kinds of things. And just do it. Yeah. So stepping away kind of just made me think about it. And I guess like the question there is, when did you start meditating? How did you start with that process?
I think it was like the mindfulness headspace.
Yeah.
And I don't know why. I think it might have been like if I had to guess, like 2016, probably before that, when I graduated college. Yeah. Maybe like 2016, 2017. Listen to the Tim Ferriss podcast. I think he was talking about the values of like meditation. And so I had like a lot of commuting into and out of the city from New Jersey, like an hour and a half every day, hour and a half every day. And I recognized like that as like wasted time and, like on the phone, like doing things. And I was like, that is a lot of time that I could just be meditating. Like, so the Headspace app makes it easy. It's like, hey, I did this for 5 minutes. Yeah. Great job. Do it for 2 minutes. Cool. Like, hey, you set the timer, like, hey, do it for 10. Like, nice. Hey, you're at 20. Here's another course. You did it 5 times, 20 minutes each. Like, great job. And then the knowledge that like you can take it and do it whenever you want. Add your own flavors to it. Yeah. That's cool. It's like malleable. I'm sure that there are people listening to this who meditate who are like, that is not meditation. But it's like, it's just, that was really important because I needed it because I was pushing my body to the limit with stand up. So it was like, God, I'm depressed. I haven't eaten. Like, what's something I could do? And rather than changing like a lot of the habits in my life, like bigger things like sleep better, or like I was at a point where I was like getting real anxious a lot. I think I'd like stop drinking again. And I was like, well, meditating will help. And then just knowing the science of it, it helps your brain. It's good for you. No one's saying it's bad for you. No one has ever said that meditation is like bad for you. I think you bring up a good point about like safety behaviors, which my wife would agree with, where she's kind of on the other side of like, we don't want to introduce new safety behaviors. And I'm like, yes, but I disagree. So we're kind of at like an impasse on that. But so that app was huge. If you just download the Headspace app, sinking $100 into it, just being like, God, I better get my money's worth out of this. Yeah. And then knowing that like a bunch of influential people do it, and then finding out the science. The science is very good for meditating. And then now that I'm in therapy, like I do DBT therapy, which is like CBT with like mindfulness and other things like that. So now my therapist is like, no, yeah, mindfulness.
Sorry, just to clarify. So CBT is cognitive behavioral therapy. That's what I do. Yeah. What is the D in DBT?
DBT is like dialectic behavioral therapy. It's for people like specifically with borderline personality disorder. Okay. And that's like kind of like a higher emphasis on like mindfulness, is my understanding. It's possible that the two things are like the exact same. Yeah. But it's like CBT with a mindfulness like twist, or maybe my therapist teaches it like that. I don't fucking know. Yeah. But so now I have like a licensed professional who is telling me, mindfulness is good. So it's been like a 7-year journey of just like downloading an app, all the simple things, right? Of like downloading an app, sinking $100 into it. Fuck. Sunk $100. It charges you annually, immediately. God, fuck it. Damn, I better get my money's worth. And I think Rick Rubin, him on a podcast was like, if you just do it every day for 2 weeks, I guarantee you will feel a difference. Yeah. It is 100, I bet it's the same as working out. Oh my God, I hate the gym. I go to the gym and it's like, if you went to the gym every day for 2 weeks and you saw the benefits, I think everybody would be fun. And if I ever quit comedy, that's what I'd do, is like a just good enough gym program of like, here is the bare minimum amount of exercise that you need to do to get mental health benefits.
Yeah.
This is all it is. It's 20 minutes of like light to moderate exercise a day. That's it. Nothing else. Like, don't worry about another fucking thing. But I think exercise and meditation are the exact same, where most people don't have the opportunity to engage in it for a long enough duration that they can see the benefits of it. The benefits are not immediate. They are immediate if you're doing it correctly. Mm-hmm. But I think life gets busy. Like, imagine being a mother of 3 who's listening to this, and it's like, yeah, man, you just got to take an hour out. Where?
Yeah.
Where is the hour? If you're living below the poverty line, like listening to this, like, okay, I'll take the 1 hour when I'm supposed to be sleeping in between my 2 jobs. So it's like,
yeah. And that's the funny thing. And like, I used to use that excuse all the time, and it still doesn't make sense. There's like not a lot of time. But like, does that person, if you check your screen time, does that person have an hour and 13 minutes on Instagram? Yeah. So like, that's the same. And like, we talk about the trade-off, it's like my personal perspective, the best investment I've ever made for that $100, maybe even if it's every year. Yeah. Best investment I've ever made. Best investment of my time.
Yes.
Ever. Because again, and I do 20 minutes a day.
Yeah.
Was my morning routine. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to figure out, maybe I'll do less. Maybe I'll,
do. Fucking push it. Do an hour. I've done like, I remember doing an hour. I was sleeping over my brother's house and I was like, I got a big day tomorrow. I'm going to try and get to like an hour. And then I was sleeping in his room. He was out of town. I'd come out of his room and his roommates, his friends were like, what were you doing in there? I was like, I just meditated for an hour. And the kid was like, if I was alone with my thoughts for a fucking hour. And I was like, yeah, that's the point. Yeah.
So that's so funny, because what you're saying about meditation is it can be different things. Like I have a friend who said, he's like, dude, I don't know how to meditate. I don't know I can't do it. I can't do it. And he plays guitar and he's incredible. And he's been playing guitar his entire life. I said, bro, you've been meditating the whole time. Yeah. That is meditation. Running is meditation. Being in a flow state of lifting is meditation. This to me is like meditative. Yeah. And it's possible. Yeah. So you bring up a good point. You bring up a good point. I'd say most people who are listening to this are in the mindset of, oh, I can't do it. It's not for me. I can't do it. I don't have time. They do have time. And that is like, power through the defense mechanisms that you have in place to stop you from meditating, because it is beneficial. Everybody's saying it's beneficial. I believe it's beneficial. It's probably takes up, I would say writing is a bigger part of my life than meditation is currently. But I'd still meditate like a couple times a week. Yeah. And it's funny that you brought up doing it on the subway, because I need like dead silence. I don't have the mat over there now, but I have that little like pillow and then a mat there. And it's just like, everything's got to be good. Nah, dude, I'll do it in fucking bed. Yeah. I'll do it. I'll be like, this is either going to be meditation or a nap. We'll find out. Yeah. And then I go and lie down. And then that's just like, that's why, like, my wife is like, did you just nap? And I'm like, yeah, I just went into like fucking deep REM sleep for 10 minutes. Which is like, I don't understand. And I'm like, I don't either. I feel great. But another benefit of meditation, and the Rick Rubin guy says it, is like, it doesn't make sense logically, but when you meditate, you have more time in the day. The hour that you lose meditating is made up for in clarity of purpose, clarity of mind, clarity of thought, clarity of everything later in the day. Yes, that's really well said. Yeah, it shouldn't make sense. I don't know why it makes sense. It shouldn't. You're losing an hour. You should be losing an hour of productivity. It's the exact opposite. You gain an hour of productivity. You might gain more than an hour of productivity, just in terms of like figuring out, am I distracted? Okay, I was distracted. Like, I think it's not just closing your eyes. You should do it with the app. And then you can sit with your thoughts. Oh, there's a thought passing through. Oh, I'm going to kill my brother. Like just natural things that we all think of every day, nonstop. But doing it with the app, because then you get the benefits of like, notice that. Yeah. Notice your feet. You have feet. Yeah. You have feet. Headspace is such a good one. And there's different types. So like there's so two quick things. I never thought about it as saving time later in the day. And that might change my mind. And I might try to do that hour stuff. Yeah. Because This morning I didn't meditate, but as I was getting ready, I was all like, I was looking around, I was freaking out. I was like, something's wrong. Like I know something's like, something's always got to be. So like I spent 15 minutes like putting stuff away, cleaning, like again, but if I had just spent the 10 minutes beforehand meditating and I did it afterwards around like noon instead of like right when I woke up, like then it did save me the time. So that's fascinating. But there's, I guess I would say the one thing about dealing with all those thoughts and figuring out, do you sit with them? Do you leave them? Do you like what do you do with them? At the end of the day, the thing that makes me feel more comfortable is like you said, they're just thoughts. Yeah. And that's it. And like,
some of them are very important thoughts that you should action immediately. Like if you're meditating and the building is on fire, you have to deal with that. You know what I mean? There are like physical considerations, like, because your brain is good at finding problems. You need to, the thought comes in, is my wife cheating on me? If she's cheating on you, don't ignore that thought, you know, like it's not, but mindfulness gives you the ability, and meditation gives you the ability to like, oh, that's just a thought. Yeah. Let it go through. Oh, I'm having that thought a lot because I found a dude's underwear in the, you know what I mean? You shouldn't ignore every thought. You identify the thoughts. Are the thoughts rational? Are the thoughts actionable? If it's actionable, action it. You don't have to action it at that time. But if it's like, I'm not good enough, it's probably can ignore that one. Like, oh, I'm not going to make rent this month. Yeah. Keep track of that thought, you know, like definitely acknowledge that it's a thought, but you shouldn't ignore, everything is just a thought. How do you feel about it? That's your choice. Yeah.
It's so funny. So like I'm like a visual guy. Yeah. And the visualization that helps me is it's through Headspace, and it's like, you're on the side of the road and your thoughts are the cars. Yeah. And they're speeding by. And like some days there's a lot of cars, there's a ton of traffic. Thoughts are flying around for me and I'm freaking out and this and that. But then when I think about it that way, I'm like, okay. Yeah. Just let them pass by. I don't have to go into the car. I don't have to grab the car. I don't have to stop the car.
And my caveat of like, oh, if your wife is cheating on you, you should action that. You will realize 90% of your thoughts are unactionable, or they're things that will happen later. Like to your car metaphor, the metaphor I have about anxiety that's really helped me is anxiety is a child in the backseat of a car. You're driving. The kid will say, you're not good enough. You know, turn the windshield wipers on, turn them off, turn them on, turn them off. And you just got to be like, hey, that's, thank you for the thought. Yeah. I know what I'm doing. Every once out of 100 times, the kid will be like, watch out, there's a car coming. And then you listen to the kid. Every other time, even then you would have seen you know what I mean? So like anxiety is usually in our developed first world, white dude world. Anxiety does not have a place for the most part because we're never in danger of dying. So anxiety
in the animal way.
Yeah. Anxiety used to serve the purpose of, hey, guess what? That's a tiger. You need to react to that with a lot. There's no tigers anymore, but the hardware is still there.
It's funny. I think the tigers are ourselves.
Yeah. Or they're tigers within.
Yeah. But because another thing I mentioned, the suicide rate for men, 405% more likely to die by suicide than women, and 38% less likely to seek help for their mental health. Yeah. So we're the problem.
Yeah.
We're the if you're thinking about like danger to yourself.
Yeah. Who's the most likely person to kill a woman? It's a dude. Like who starts wars? Also dudes. Like who kills themselves at higher rates? Dudes. Like it could be that, I think masculinity is a difficult one, right? Because it's like it makes for a lot of great things. Got us to the moon. Yeah. I'm sure if we had included women earlier, it would have changed in a way. But like there's a dumb dude, I got to do this fucking thing at any cost thing that we need to make the world go round. But it also invented the atomic bomb. Like, so there's like recognized dudes you've got every dude, and I guess every women they commit suicide less, but they try it more. Mm-hmm. Dudes are more violent, so we complete it more. If a dude is going to kill themselves, and trigger warning to anybody if you put the fucking
we got
1-800 don't kill yourself thing. If a dude wants to kill themselves, he's using a gun, he's jumping out a window, he's doing a violent thing. A woman is more likely to like, I'll do some poison, I'll do some like, I'll overdose, I'll like slit my wrists. Like the dudes are decisive. And so that's another thing, is recognizing as a dude, you have hardware in your brain that is, and my therapist says all the time, it's outdated hardware. We're putting new software on it, but the hardware that we have is a step above a monkey. Yeah. It's Windows 98. We could keep making things around us, but I still have panic attacks, which is the reaction to a tiger, and there's no tigers anymore. I'm having those same panic attacks about, do people like me? Are all of these like thoughts in my brain? And to take it a step further, dudes have another element of bad hardware that is testosterone that makes us get into bar fights. Have you ever seen a girl get into a bar fight? It happens like, what, 1 out of 80% of the time?
At Xfinity, I don't know.
Yeah, okay. Everybody's obviously Xfinity. But so recognize there's two elements to the point I'm trying to make. Every human is working on outdated hardware, and everybody needs to be given that grace. We're all fucking monkeys. We're living in a world. What floor are we on? The 13th floor? We're in a box in the sky. Yeah. Nothing about this is normal. Nothing about our modern world is normal. And we're working on outdated hardware. So people who are like in-group, out-group obsessed, hey, Mexicans are coming into our country to steal our jobs. That fear is primal. And dudes have a weird twist that makes it violent.
Yeah. It's interesting to think about the hardware software thing, because an idea that I've been trying to grapple with in my head and write about, and like, this is again, like, I'm so with you on the outdated stuff, and the software part is like, all right, I'll ask you a question. Like, do you ever like close the apps on your phone?
Yes.
Like you close them out. Do you feel like better when you close them out?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Okay. So think about that. That's part of you now.
Yeah.
Your phone is legitimately physically part of you.
Yeah.
And that's something that I'm trying to figure out. Like either when I meditate, like I try to have my phone like not physically near me.
Yeah.
Even though like, again, like I'm using the phone for the meditation, but like, and that's something that I'm like kind of trying to figure out. How do you either interrupt that? And something that I've done twice in the past 2 months now is done like one of those 24 hours, it's more like 36 hours with sleep, like dopamine fasts.
Yeah.
So went without my phone from Sunday night, falling asleep until Tuesday morning.
Yes.
And no phone, no computer, no music.
That's great.
Absolutely anything.
It's probably excruciating.
No, it was the best fucking day ever.
Interesting.
I spent it by myself. I walked literally 8 miles around the entire city.
Yeah.
I went down to Old City here in Philly. You know what it was? And this is the part that's scary about how all this technology fucks with us. I felt like a kid again. Yeah. I looked up, I was reading the signs. I was like, I said, I've been here for 6 months in Philly and I don't even know how to get around. But after that 2 days, I knew how to get around. Yeah. Because I'm not checking my watch and something vibrating on me every moment. But I felt like, this is such a funny, like, it was a Monday. Again, everybody else was working. So like, I felt like I was on a field trip. Yeah. It was the best day. It was so chill. And like, yeah, I mean, it's just, it's crazy what this technology does to us as much as it provides us. Yeah. Is it net negative or positive? But I think that's, I probably come down on I'm a pessimistic person, straight up. So I think technology probably, in terms of healthiness, I don't know. I think we probably like maxed out on life expectancy, and like, it's going down now. Like life expectancy in the US is decreasing. We're not living as long. It's an opioid epidemic. It's firearms. It's, there's a bunch of different obesity, COVID, but our life expectancy in the US is going down. Yeah. Will it rebound this year? I don't know. It's on a downward trend. So I think we probably maxed out. Wow, that's crazy. I really disagree. I'm one of the people who thinks that one of my biggest fears in life is living forever. Yeah. I think that I think that the technology that's to reverse aging. It's getting there. Brian Johnson, I mentioned this before too, but he is just he's like a billionaire, and you have a biological age, and he's like figured out how to like reverse it. And a lot of people, again, like this just takes a ton of money and resources and everything. Yeah. So there's gonna be like different classes. It's like the South Park episode when Magic Johnson finds out the cure for AIDS is money.
And there's a scene where one of the scientist goes to Africa and he goes to like a very poor village and he's like, we did it, we cured AIDS, the cure is money, it's money. And then he drives away and they're just still standing there like,
what?
What? Yeah.
But no, like, I mean, all those things again, like I use the example of Bezos, Dave Portnoy, like these guys like who just invest in all these things to like take care of your body in a different way. Like,
yeah,
it's, so I don't know. I guess I just think at the rate that technology is moving on a lot of this research, there's ways to, because again, isn't aging, and this is where I'm not like sharp enough, but isn't like aging and it's just gravity weighing down on your body.
It's telomeres shortening.
What is that?
So when genes replicate in your body, every time a cell replicates, it loses a little bit of the genetic code on the genes within the cell. And so every time you divide a cell, that genetic code gets like shorter and shorter and shorter. And so then the quality of the cell degrades.
Wow. One of my favorite things, and I meant to say this earlier, I didn't want to cut you off, but your podcast, Culture Clash. So you briefly told a little bit about, what the build out is of it. But I guess to start from the start how did the podcast start and your relationship with
Shafi.
Yeah. I almost said Staffy.
Yeah. Stavi. Steve Luck.
Shout out. But
somebody's so undeserving of a shout out.
I don't know if that's true. I don't know if that's true.
Deep into the episode.
But
Yeah.
But no, where did you meet Shafi and how did the idea come about? Tell me the origin story.
Yeah. Shafi, I met him doing open mics. And when you do open mics, if you see the people that you see a lot of the same people. And the people that you see the most are the people who are working the hardest, who are going from mic to mic. And Shafi was somebody who would like come in from fucking Albany to do mics in Manhattan. And then the more what I realized about Shafi is he's the kind of person who is friendly enough that like the relationship that I had with Shafi probably, this is prior to the podcast, I think we're closer now. But like when I met Shafi, I was like, oh, this guy's like, real cool, like friendly, could consider him a friend or like a peer. I think he has that relationship with like probably 100 people in New York of just like somebody who's like very good at, being nice, being friendly, caring, like, and he just fucking worked hard and he was funny. And I think we both I hit a point with my social where I was doing like, well, Shafi was like going on tour. I started going on tour, like both of us like opening for like bigger comedians. And I was we're doing that in like parallel tracks and I would like run into him and stuff. And then one day it was kind of like asking somebody to be in a relationship with you where it was like, they could say no. They could say fuck no. They could say no in a really mean way.
So you brought it up.
I brought it up. It was entirely my idea where I was like, hey, I think that you and me are both working really hard. Like, would you want to do a podcast? And he was like, yeah, let's meet and like talk about it. And we just like kept brainstorming on the name, Culture Clash. Like he's from Bangladesh, I'm from America. And it was kind of like, I'd been doing the EU USA series. And I was like, I think the comparison, like the different viewpoints is like, why, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Yeah.
Like,
all right. Yeah. But I guess like prefacing with the, or starting back at the, what the layout of the podcast.
Yeah. So I'd been doing the EU USA by that point. And that was also like, I had something to offer. I had more followers than Shafi at that point.
Okay.
And he has more than me now. But it was kind of like a recognition of like, hey, I think we're both on the same track. We both value the same things. Like, I think you're funny. You're nice. I have a studio. I'm a video producer. Like there's a studio that we can like use. And then we did it. We've been doing it like one episode a week for over a year. And I think we're getting a comedy podcast is difficult. I remember doing poorly. And that's the other thing too, is like, I have been doing stand-up for 7 years and I'm good. Not great. I'm good at stand-up. I've been podcasting for 1 year So I don't think I'm great. You know, if I'm not great at stand-up after 7 years, I can't be great at podcasting after 1. And I think comedy podcasts are like really dependent on like vibe, banter, familiarity, like being able to pivot based on like jokes and stuff. And we're able to like build bits, callbacks to bits, like, because we're both doing that shit already. And there's like an educational lens too of just like learning the history of shit, bouncing it back and forth. And like, I think our episodes are getting dumber. There's no way that people are learning. I think if you want to learn episodes, learn from the episodes, listen to the early ones.
I agree.
And if you want to laugh, then listen to the later ones. We're just having a good time. If you want to learn like a little something, like just stop on by.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's that's a funny statement from you, because I've been listening. Like I mentioned, I binged it because I found out. I was like, wait, what? Zell?
Yeah, for 3 years.
Podcast. I was like, yo, like, all right, like I'm obviously gonna rip through it. And I've been. It's funny. I actually have like a routine with it. I get Chipotle, throw it on. I've actually done it. Or I've fallen asleep listening to the podcast.
That is amazing, man. Thank you for.
I mean, it's
listening to it.
And it's funny, and it's like, and again, I like the learning, like the different hearing. The culture of, because he would be the West.
He's the East, I'm the West.
I always get it messed up because we're on the East Coast.
Yeah.
But so in the East, like, dude, it's so different. Like I was telling somebody about it the other day, and I tried to like explain the theme, and I was like, yeah, that one episode about like marriages is like, you're talking about, we do the Cotton Eye Joe, and like they like dance for 24 hours. Like,
yeah.
It's just like, dude, it is so different.
Bangladeshi weddings and Indian weddings, 2 different places. Learn that? No. India, like he needed to learn a dance. He was in the wedding party. He had to learn a choreographed dance that was like going to be done on the dance floor. He was just in the wedding party. He's not bride, not groom. Like, so like Indian weddings are fucking wild. They're multi-day, multi-night. It's anarchy. It's absolutely insane. I think like we get to, so that's just like one difference. But we have like, I think all of our episodes are good. And if you have like I think you can go, and we were talking about this before, like, I think all the episodes stand up like to like the test of time. Like we're not doing like super current event stuff. Like go listen.
Yeah. Because
after you're done listening to this.
Yeah.
And we're not competing podcasts because this is long and meaningful and mine is short and nonsense. So we won't even show up in the same algorithm.
But it does still mean a lot. And I didn't want to cut you off earlier, but when you were talking about the the importance of what you're doing through comedy, I'm like, dude, what you do makes a difference in my day. Mm-hmm. And with it through the day, like, and that's, if it's making a difference for me, it's making a difference for so many other people. Like there's people out there that don't even get to tell you, or don't get to like comment, or don't even, whatever it is, like it does make a big difference. And I mean,
and I'll say I appreciate it, and I believe that you are right in that it does make a positive difference. However, the second that you start believing that as a comedian of like, I am giving a gift to the world, like, you know what I mean? Like that is a wild, like, let me get on stage and give you my gift.
Yeah.
That's not, it's funny to reference, but like, I can't, I'll recognize the value in it. I think my default state is to undercut myself or be like, no, it's not, I don't like, no praise, please. Like, and yet I work my entire life in pursuit of it. Who knows? I don't know. Please tell me nice things, and the second you do, I'm gonna fucking hate you. I don't know. It's all really messy and confused. It means a lot. Thank you for saying that. You're a day one supporter.
No, literally. And I was joking. I meant to print out and give to you the Facebook statuses that I posted, because I posted multiple of them. I went back and I was like, geez, dude, I was really zealous. Like, like not number one, because I mean, you got your mom, I'm sure, and your family.
Yeah, there were some times that they weren't. You were always sure. But I think there were some times where they were like, God, he's fucking quitting his job. I quit a job over it. Like I quit fucking like a.
But that's
an
the thing.
Advertising job.
And again, that might be a weird thing that I believe that I pick up on people. It's just like, because again, I think you're chasing something that isn't attainable.
Correct.
And that is the secret sauce, I feel like, for a lot of people.
And knowing that it's unattainable.
Yeah. Because like we talk about, I mean, Joe Rogan, I like to listen to Lex Fridman, Tim Ferriss. Like,
yeah,
why are they still doing what they're doing? Because they're chasing something that they're never going to. And like, that's in the introduction, I say, I'm looking for answers to questions that I know I may never find.
Yeah.
And like, I know I'm not going to, but I don't know. I like it's fun.
The journey is literally all that we have.
Yeah.
But there's nothing else.
Dude, well, yeah. So I guess shout out Culture Clash. And I really liked when you started calling everyone clashers.
Clashers, yeah.
Clashers. Then I also wanted to steal at the end of the episode when you thank everybody who made it to the end of the episode. I literally would be like, I made it. Like,
oh my God. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah. But Culture Clash Comedy Pod at Dan Pulzello, is it?
At Dan Pulzello, lucked out. There's only one Dan Pulzello.
OG. Yeah. But you didn't get the OG Gmail.
Yeah, and there's a relative I'm waiting to die. And the second that they die, I'm going to swoop in. I could just make it Dan Pulzello at Gmail.
Yeah.
That's not it. So nobody trying to email me. Like anybody's going to. Anyway.
But anything else to plug? Or I know I saw you posted the other day that you're going to put together a tour.
Yeah. This is the year that I do a comedy tour. So fill out my mailing list. That's the best way. People were like DMing me. I made like a post that was like, tell me where to perform. And I put a link, and then people were DMing me like Warsaw, Poland. And I was like, yeah, man, you're the second person to DM me about Warsaw. It seems like it's a little hot in that region of the world right now. No, I'm appreciative of every Polish fan I have, all three of you. But yeah, fill out, go to Instagram, Dan Pulzello, tell me where to perform. And thanks for having me.